Catherine Delahunty.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Tēnā koutou te whare. I also want to speak about a dark secret in this country, but it's a sadder one in many ways for our kids. So I do want to challenge the government on seclusion rooms. Banning them is not enough. Seclusion rooms are a symptom of a broken system whereby some of the most marginalised children and the most stressed teachers, aides and teachers are struggling to deal with some complex issues. And so government needs to do a whole lot more than just put out an SOP, which we think we may support, banning this practice. We need to fix a broken system and support schools across the country because these children are hurt and have been hurt. So for a minute, I'd like to think about this perspective of these kids themselves. Children who experience a range of learning differences and disabilities often do not find school easy and often have triggers that can result in behaviours that other people find difficult or confusing. Now, in order to make sure that these kids are taken care of, there is no initial teacher training on this. There's maybe a couple of hours. There is no professional development that is mandatory to teachers. They have to opt in to understand how to cope with the situation. And what we have seen with the seclusion rooms is that with 17 schools, is that they are not coping and are using this strategy because they don't know what else to do. They don't know. And without resources and training and a culture of inclusion, this will continue to happen. Even if seclusion rooms are banned, these children will continue to be excluded from their rights in terms of safety and opportunity unless government seriously invests in the need for a program of education around inclusion. Our society remains disabling and exclusive. So I'm not blaming the government alone, we're all part of it. But it's the job of the government to lead more than a piecemeal ban of an individual strategy which we all find frightening, and the children are traumatised by who've experienced it. We have to do a comprehensive change. That is why I initiated the inquiry, Mr. Speaker, which we've just reported back on, and that inquiry found a broken system. It found that there is no more money, the government's not prepared to put more money in, and it's not prepared to enshrine children's rights in the law. So families who've experienced things like seclusion rooms, or like only having 1 hour of school a day, and their child is seen as a behavioural problem and they are asked to remove that child, which is exclusion as opposed to seclusion, but amounts to the same thing, that needs to be addressed properly. And that has not been addressed properly. And our Select Committee continues to hear on all kinds of legislation around education, these families telling us story after story, and piecemeal responses will not work. I am not attacking individual schools. I know there are individual schools that are going through hard times of this, as well as families that are going through hell. But actually, it's not their fault. We have not, in the history of this country, and particularly in the term of this government, we have not invested sufficiently in building a culture of inclusion. Mainstreaming of children has become main dumping, and that has led to some strategies that are less than perfect by people who have less than optimum training and support. There are schools doing a fantastic job who know exactly how to avoid triggering meltdowns for children with high needs such as autism. There are many ways in which we can avoid seclusion or exclusion. But those magnet schools tell us that they are using best practice because without the government support, without the funding, without the training, because they have made a cultural commitment to do it. It is time that this government and all of us step up. No more kids in dark rooms, Mr. Speaker. No more excluding our children and leaving them at home because the school can't cope. Resource, learn, respect and uphold the rights of our children, all of them, no matter who they are, to a genuine experience of education and inclusion. We must teach every child that every other child has a right to be there. And if that child is different, that's okay. We must support all teachers and teachers' aides to be able to cope with diversity in the classroom instead of doing piecemeal actions and an inquiry which disappointed me despite all the work that I put into it and all the progress. It's not good enough. The system is still broken. Kia ora koutou katoa.
Kia ora.
Ngā koe.